An iconic British assembly plant that survived 2 world wars, crippling economic depressions, and decades of industrial friction is pulling the plug on its production line forever. A historic luxury marque holding a prestigious royal warrant has voluntarily wiped away its entire century-old heritage overnight, refusing to sell a single new motorcar to its loyal UK customers for over a year. If you still believe the mainstream narrative that Great Britain's automotive manufacturing sector is merely undergoing a smooth, modern green transition, you are watching a carefully sanitized corporate illusion. What is actually unfolding across the United Kingdom in 2026 is the rapid government-mandated dismantling of an entire industrial foundation. Millions of taxpayers, skilled factory workers, and lifelong motoring enthusiasts are witnessing the final tragic chapter of British automotive heritage, driven off an economic cliff by aggressive statutory quotas, crushing industrial energy costs, and bizarre corporate gambles. To understand why Britain's remaining vehicle assembly plants are quietly halting production, and why suburban streets across England, Scotland and Wales are being flooded with foreign imports, we have to look far behind the glossy public relations campaigns. This is not simply a story about environmental stewardship or corporate restructuring. It is a cold, mathematical breakdown of collapsing production figures, secret credit trading penalties, and the catastrophic real-world impact of the zero-emission vehicle mandate. By examining what is happening right now to historic manufacturing hubs like Luton and Ellesmere Port, alongside the unprecedented commercial withdrawal of Jaguar, you will see exactly why the price of accessible personal transportation in the UK is soaring completely beyond the reach of the average working family. We are unmasking the precise policy decisions and boardroom manoeuvres that destroyed Great Britain's standing as a global automotive powerhouse. To comprehend the sheer speed of this industrial breakdown, one must examine the punitive financial architecture constructed by Whitehall under the zero-emission vehicle regulation. Under these statutory rules, every car manufacturer selling new vehicles in Great Britain is legally required to ensure that an escalating percentage of their total annual registrations consists of pure battery electric models. For every single petrol, diesel or traditional hybrid vehicle sold above that strict government-allocated quota, the car maker is hit with an automatic, non-negotiable statutory fine of £15,000 per vehicle. When lawmakers originally drafted these ambitious targets, their theoretical models relied on the convenient assumption that consumer appetite for electric vehicles would grow exponentially year after year. Instead, private retail buyers across the United Kingdom have largely rejected new electric cars at current price points. Private retail electric vehicle sales have stalled dramatically, leaving showroom forecourts, import docks and distribution hubs overflowing with unsold electric stock that cannot be moved without ruinous discounting. By examining the audited registration data sets published monthly by the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, the structural failure of this policy becomes undeniable. While fleet and corporate registrations artificially inflate overall figures due to massive tax incentives, private retail buyers account for less than 2 out of every 10 new electric car purchases in Britain. Car makers are forced to choose between selling electric vehicles at a massive financial loss or paying £15,000 per car in government penalties for selling the petrol vehicles that British drivers actually want. To avoid paying multi-million-pound compliance fines, major manufacturers have begun intentionally restricting the delivery of affordable petrol hatchbacks and crossovers to British dealerships, creating a manufactured scarcity that inflates new and used car prices across the entire country. Take a brief moment to press the subscribe button right now. Subscribing to this channel ensures you stay equipped with genuine, unvarnished industrial analysis and financial realities affecting your household budget long before they hit the evening news. The operational crisis facing Stellantis, the multinational manufacturing giant behind Vauxhall, Peugeot, Citroën and Fiat, exposes the brutal reality of operating an industrial business business under the UK's mandate regime. For over a century, the Vauxhall brand was synonymous with accessible British motoring, producing millions of reliable, affordable family cars and commercial vans that kept Britain's economy moving. At Ellesmere Port in Cheshire, a historic manufacturing facility that built iconic models like the Chevette and Astra over 6 decades, was forcibly converted into an electric-only van assembly plant. However, when commercial fleet demand for electric vans failed to match government projections, the facility was left operating at a fraction of its total structural capacity. Running a multi-acre automotive manufacturing plant below capacity destroys its economic viability, as fixed overheads and elevated industrial energy tariffs consume every penny of potential profit. Simultaneously, the historic Luton assembly plant in Bedfordshire, which has continuously produced commercial vehicles since 1905 through 2 world wars and numerous economic downturns, found itself targeted for radical restructuring and production shifts. Facing the prospect of paying hundreds of millions of pounds in UK mandate fines while struggling against some of the highest industrial electricity rates in the entire developed world, corporate executives in Paris and Amsterdam made the cold, logical decision to reallocate capital away from Great Britain. Production capacity is being quietly shifted to lower-cost, highly efficient assembly hubs in mainland Europe and North Africa, leaving thousands of skilled British manufacturing workers facing uncertain futures. While Vauxhall's struggle represents the tragic demise of working-class British mass production, Jaguar's recent corporate strategy represents arguably the most controversial gamble in modern luxury automotive history. In a move that left industry analysts, financial markets, and loyal enthusiasts utterly bewildered, Jaguar completely stopped selling brand-new motor cars in its home market for an extended hiatus. In one sweeping corporate decree, Jaguar deliberately terminated production of its entire existing model lineup. The XE and XF executive saloons were permanently axed, the acclaimed F-Type sports car line was shut down forever, and the E-Pace and I-Pace crossovers were abruptly removed from global ordering systems. By closing down its UK showroom network to the general motoring public, Jaguar effectively severed its connection to the very market that built its global reputation over a century. Why would a historic British marque holding royal warrants voluntarily execute a commercial self-destruction of its home market presence? The answer lies in a radical, high-stakes decision to abandon the middle-class executive market entirely. Under the banner of a polarizing, copy-nothing, ultra-luxury electric rebrand, Jaguar decided to wipe away its traditional customer base of British professionals, doctors, company directors, and enthusiasts. Instead of building refined, accessible luxury saloons, Jaguar repositioned itself to compete directly against Bentley, Porsche, and Aston Martin. They unveiled avant-garde concept vehicles and high-fashion marketing campaigns that drew fierce backlash from brand traditionalists worldwide. Jaguar is gambling its entire corporate survival on the belief that a small global elite of ultra-wealthy buyers will willingly pay well over £100,000 for a futuristic electric Grand Tourer, completely erasing its working-class Coventry roots and historic British motorsport legacy. The tragedy of this dual collapse, the dismantling of mass van production in Luton, and the commercial self-sabotage at Jaguar highlights a profound national policy failure. While the UK government aggressively championed forced electrification through rigid statutory decrees, it completely failed to establish the foundational economic conditions required to sustain domestic manufacturing. British car factories pay significantly higher industrial electricity tariffs than competing assembly plants in continental Europe, Asia, or North America. Grid connection delays of up to 7 years prevent manufacturing facilities and logistics hubs from installing the high-voltage connections required for large-scale electric vehicle production. Because domestic plants were crippled by statutory fines and uncompetitive production costs, The floodgates were thrown wide open for heavily state-subsidised foreign manufacturers to capture the UK domestic market. Under the mandate's credit trading mechanism, legacy manufacturers operating historic British plants are forced to purchase compliance credits from pure electric vehicle foreign brands if they fail to meet their electric sales percentages. In practice, this means British jobs and domestic capital are actively subsidising foreign corporate competitors, allowing overseas brands to establish dominant market positions across Great Britain, while UK factories are restructured or shuttered. The fundamental realisation emerging from this industrial tragedy is that top-down statutory quotas cannot forcibly rewrite the laws of economics, supply chain logistics, or household budgets. The end of Great Britain's automotive manufacturing dominance was not caused by a lack of engineering talent, worker productivity, or design innovation. It was the direct, predictable outcome of a regulatory system that punished domestic production while doing nothing to solve the real-world barriers facing everyday consumers. The consequences for the average British household are already becoming painfully clear. As manufacturers artificially restrict the supply of affordable petrol vehicles to balance their percentage ratios, used car prices for reliable internal combustion engine cars remain artificially elevated. Working families are being systematically squeezed out of the new car market, forced either into expensive monthly finance commitments on complex electric vehicles or onto an increasingly expensive second-hand market. As assembly lines close and supply chains migrate overseas, Great Britain loses vital engineering expertise, skilled apprenticeships, and high-paying industrial jobs that once formed the economic backbone of regional communities across the Midlands and the North. Great Britain traded away its historic industrial engine in exchange for arbitrary statutory targets, leaving British motorists with fewer choices, higher transportation costs, and a domestic market entirely dependent on overseas corporate interests. While traditional British assembly lines fade into history and manufacturing plants face unprecedented restructuring, an equally aggressive battle is currently being fought over the future of the UK's power grid and public charging network. To understand why Britain's public charging infrastructure is critically failing to keep pace with government ambitions, and how this grid crisis directly threatens the resale value of your vehicle today, click directly on the video appearing on your screen right now.